Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of my deep, intense shadow work vlog series called Real Monsters. Now you guys, this is going to be part 2 of the episode that I titled Beginning of the End, but I might title this a little different. I might not title it Beginning of the End, but it's definitely part 2, okay? All right, so we're talking about, and I do have my phone. I still have my notes because again, I want to stay focused. I want to not let my emotions drive anything, but I am going to be feeling, feeling and working through my emotions, okay? All right. So we're talking about my relationship from start to finish. And this now here is going to be your trigger warning. We'll be talking about things that may trigger your past experiences and touching on sexuality. Because it's public record of who someone marries and sometimes has kids with, I can't conceal this man's identity in the way that I truly desire. I still will refrain from saying his name, showing his face, or helping you identify him in any way. It is truly not my desire for you to identify him at all. I do not condone any hate or violence or any negativity towards this man. I really do take life and these types of matters seriously. End of disclaimer. All right, so in the first episode, I laid out quite a bit of groundwork, quite a bit of background, right? I talk about his upbringing. I talk about some red flags that I should have taken heed to. I talked about how I begged and pleaded for him to show up for me, our son, our household, and he just wouldn't, right? So now, how do I get out of it? How do I get out of the energy or the direction in which we're heading towards in our relationship? How do I shift this shit? You know what I'm saying? How do I start to bring about the changes that are necessary to not only live the life that I want to live and to be happy, but to also live the life that I'm deserving of, because I literally worked so hard for it. It was to the point where I was even ready to settle and be content if it meant just being with him. And honestly, y'all, that is never okay. But I loved him. I fought so tirelessly and so hard for us. I fought until the end. I fought until I began killing myself. Figuratively. It was when I had a breakdown in December of 2019 that really started putting things into perspective for me. Number one, I didn't want to live anymore. I really wanted to unalive myself. Like I was on the verge of doing so. Remember when I said God said that he had had enough? This was at this time. This was that time that God and I had that conversation. He said it wasn't fair that I wasn't enjoying or taking part of any of the blessings that he bestowed upon me, but yet everyone else around me was, especially my ex. He came to me over and over and told me that he was going to cut off my flow of blessings until I got away from my husband. And he did not play about it. He did just that. Things started falling apart. After all of those warnings and me not heeding those warnings and not going in the direction that God told me I needed to go into, everything started falling apart. I lost my job and things were getting tough. I thought, surely this man is going to step up now and help me. I had to go on a program. Shout out to Wells Fargo. I mean, I know that everybody gives you a bad rep, but y'all came in clutch during my hardship. So shout out to Wells Fargo, okay? But I had to get on a program, and they made it so that my mortgage was $25 a month until I could obtain employment again. And then whatever accrued during that period of time where I was unemployed, it would go to the back end of my mortgage. So I would ultimately have to make those payments up, but everything went to the back end of my mortgage, which extended my mortgage a little bit, but not much. And it was great for me. It was what I needed, okay? Mind you, Smecco, which is the electric company, they don't give a fuck about me being laid off. And neither did the banks for my car loan and shit. Like, they didn't give a fuck. So I still had to pay those payments in full. I was on unemployment and I was getting $125 a week. My son currently makes that. Do you think that this man helped me with household bills? Do you think that he gave me $25 just for bragging rights and just to say that he paid the mortgage? Nope. Fuck no. That nigga ain't help me with shit. You see, we made it through though. God had me. Like, seriously, God was like, look, I know I said I wasn't going to offer you any more blessings, but I'm not going to let you fall and fail either. God had me the whole time. He had me in his arms, protecting me just as well as my ancestors did. I didn't even ask my parents for help. I didn't let my parents know any of this was going on at any point. I knew that my dad was going to think, there's a whole man living with you and you're coming to us for help? Oh no, he got to go. And I didn't want that perception of him. My dad does not play around. I did not want my dad to have that perception of him. I didn't want anybody in the family or outside of the family at that to have that perception of him. I worked so hard to maintain a positive image for my ex, even though, and this is the craziest part, like I should have just like let him be, you know, exposed for who he was instead of trying to always, you know, make a positive image for him. But this man tore me down in front of people as often as he could. As many times as he had the opportunity to, he took every opportunity to do so. And it was like he was trying to humble me for some reason. And I'm like, dude, like, we're on the same team. Like, bro, didn't make any sense. But he would talk about me like a dog to those around us, especially especially my family. And he would conceal the shit as jokes. It wasn't funny to me. So they would always think it was funny, and then they would tell me that I was overreacting when I would get upset. But nobody knew what I was really going through. Nobody knew the background or what was going on behind the scenes. Again, I'm in this space where I feel like I have no advocacy. Something did have to give, okay? No, he didn't show me that he loved me. No, he didn't tell me unless we were getting off the phone or we were leaving the house or, you know, one another. It's basically this. He didn't tell me unless it was like basically the standard type of shit, like getting off the phone, again, leaving the house, that type of stuff, right? He did surprise me with stuff here and there, and it was literally few and far in between. I didn't really get things for my birthday. He really didn't do things for my birthday. Christmas, I was really shocked. One year he did something and it was like crazy. Like, I was crazy shocked. And it was the smallest shit. Like, I think it was like earbuds and something else. Like, it was really small, and it wasn't even like name brand earbuds. I cried because I was just like, I can't believe he got me something. He did something for me. It was like he would do just enough to keep me hanging on, or to give me just a little glimmer or glimpse of hope. I have to take accountability for staying in a relationship like this and masking it publicly to the point where people actually called us couple goals. The shit I hid from, I hid it from my own child. Like, the shit that I hid from the public was crazy enough for y'all to like really consider us as couple goals. That's why they say like, you shouldn't consider people couple goals, because you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But again, I hid it from everybody. I hid it from my son, which is exactly why my son felt so blindsided when I decided that I had had enough and I was leaving. So let's talk about my transition out of the relationship. He said that he could tell about 2.5 years into the marriage that I was gone. I was detached. There was no feelings. There was no energy. I was just a shell. Things had changed, and that's when he wanted to fight for me. Nick, you've completely obliterated me, and now you want to fight for me? No. You wanted to fight for the life that you knew you were losing. You knew you'd be responsible for yourself, and that you'd have to be a man and step up and be a father if I left, because I would no longer be willing to care, to cover for you, or make excuses for you. We'll get into that. Y'all, I was literally almost a runaway bride. Up until a few months ago, when I told my mother about the assaults that I had experienced, the only two people who knew that I was about to be a runaway bride was myself and my best friend. She stayed with me in our hotel the night before the wedding. And the morning of the wedding, she found me talking to myself in front of a full-length mirror on the floor, bawling, crying. I was talking myself into marrying him and going through with the wedding. In true ride or die fashion, yo, my bitch was like, bitch, say word, okay? Say word and we can dip. You do not have to do this. You really need to think about what you're about to do, best friend. And against what my soul and her was trying to tell me and warn me, I married him anyway. I wanted to give my son what I had, a 2-parent household. I just wanted it to work so bad. There was also huge drama surrounding our wedding and afterwards. And I kind of touched on it, hinting to it on his family's episode. One of the things was his mom, remind you, his family didn't pay not one red penny, not one red cent. Mom, dad, stepmom, stepfather, none of them, right? Why was his mom going around our wedding reception acting like and telling people that she had paid for everything that was at the wedding? She basically paid for the wedding. And my mom and my god sisters corrected her in front of everybody, and it was a big mess. But anyway. But that's when I realized that he was never going to protect me. I truly loved him more than I loved myself, and it's so sad. It's really sad. It's devastating. It's devastating, and just think about how hard and devastating that is for me when I had no choice but to leave. It was the marriage or my life in many ways. So at this point, I was operating in hostility, anger, resentment, confusion, and hurt. I started disregarding how I spoke to him. I actually put my hands on him less than a handful of times when arguments got really heated. It wasn't any full-on fights, like we were battling each other. Usually it would be like hit, swing, or swing, hit, land. And then, you know, we would decide to stop arguing. After it got that far, we would decide, you know, stop arguing. We need to take a break, you know, give each other some space. I didn't beat the fuck out of him or anything like that, but I did not keep my hands to myself. You know what I'm saying? And so I want to address that. I want to acknowledge that. And I want to take accountability for that. Like I felt so pushed to the point where I put my hands on him, and that's not right. That is not okay. Okay. But I was, again, beyond through at this point. I should have realized when I started feeling the need to swing that I was subconsciously fighting for my life. But it didn't click to me. What did click was that I no longer wanted to be that person. So it was my mission to get back to me, the real me, the true me. It was my mission to find out who the fuck I am. Upon some self-realization, I realized that I stopped my life at 17 when I became a mother and lived for everybody else and no longer for myself. I was a stranger to myself. And the person that I had turned into, I did not like. I didn't like that person at all. I was aggressive. I didn't have patience for anything or anyone. Stupidity angered me. My child even began to suffer because of my lack of patience and my internal battle of uneasiness and unhappiness. Due to that, my child suffered. I had to change. So I began doing rounds of shadow work, like we're doing here, studying and diving into my spirituality. I had several spiritual awakenings throughout our relationship, so I was well into my spiritual journey by the time I left him, which is how I had the strength to leave, honestly. I had to understand that my ancestors had my back, and I had to be secure in that before I could walk away. They've always had my back, okay? I initiated into my first African traditional religion while we were together. So the transition and change has been happening since 2011. I just couldn't see and recognize it for what it was. It didn't become totally clear to me until 2020 when I blossomed into my true self. I became a priestess that year and everything, y'all. Like, I really started to come into my own that year. I had to practice what I preached. I began hearing and feeling God and his blessings again. It was October 2021 when I told my ex that I wanted to fully separate and asked him to move out so that I could begin my life in 2022 fresh and anew. Once apart and having time to reflect over everything and truly see the damage that had been done by us both, I'm grateful that things happened the way that they did. So let's now get into the final straw. I hate that I even have to talk about this, but honestly, it's my experience and it rattled me enough to feel it necessary to leave once and for all. And so it needs to be talked about during this shadow work because it affected me tremendously. So 2020, I'm realizing that I really don't like this man. I love him, but I needed to love me more. I knew that I was at my end when I called my friends together in June and told them that I needed them. I never do this. I'm usually the distant friend. I'm usually the friend that is strong enough to cope by themselves and then come back all good. I told them that I needed us to get together because I'm going through a lot and I really needed them. It was then that I told them everything and that I was leaving my marriage. I knew that when I expressed that to them and I told them everything, that I was done. I had no more left. I had no more fight left. And it was to the point where everything was starting to take a physical toll on me. Sciatica flare-ups left and right, y'all. I'm talking about so bad to where I'm in the bed and I can't move or walk for upwards to a week to almost 2 weeks at a time at each flare-up. And they would happen quite frequently, to the point where my mom was like, no, you really need to go see a doctor because this is scary. Okay? I'm talking about this stuff happened to the point where the pain was so bad that I couldn't even walk. I couldn't walk to get to the bathroom or anywhere that I needed to go because the pain and the muscle spasms, they were so intense. And this is how intense they were. I'm really about to embarrass myself. But the pains were so intense and the spasms would happen so intently that it caused me to pee in the floor in my bedroom or in the hallways in my attempt to try to get to the bathroom. Yeah, it was that bad. Thank God I had hardwood floors. Because, it was easier to clean hardwood floors than it would have been carpet. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get pissy out of and then imagine the smell if I had carpet. Oh my God, y'all. But yeah, it was that bad. And you know what's crazy? I still did my household duties with flare-ups. I would hold on like this to the counters and stuff and still cook full home-cooked meals. That's how dedicated I was to my marriage, my family, my life, literally. February 2020 rolls around and he tells me that he's been in counseling with Val. Saying her name because she's already been on here and you guys have seen her, you know who she is or whatever. So I don't have to hide her identity because she's presented herself to you all. She's been significant for all of us. So you guys know the role that she played in our lives. She's been very significant. But I felt like he was doing counseling sessions with Val because he needed somebody to vouch for him that he was putting in some type of work. And he was trying, right? So I did give him that. He then tells me that he wants us to do marriage counseling together with her, and I agreed to it because I wanted to make sure that I exhausted all options and everything. I wanted to make sure that I did everything that I possibly could before I totally walked away. It was during that marriage counseling that I realized that I needed to walk away. It was then that he finally told me the truth about the girl that I had went to jail behind. He held on to a lie and gaslit me for 11 years regarding her. He was fucking her. He was in a relationship with her. The shit that she was saying on social media was true because it was her truth. And it was the truth that he was allowing her to believe and operate in. She still deserved her ass whooping because she disrespected me. But I can't say I fought her in how she thought she was eligible to move. She still had me fucked up, and she learned the hard way by having her face rearranged. You know what I'm saying? And being unrecognizable for a little while, but she learned. That's neither here nor there. She learned. But that's another story time. We're gonna have to get into that. That's a story we're gonna have to get into. It wasn't until marriage counseling that he wanted to listen to my needs. When she asked me what I needed or wanted to see from him, I told them both. I need him to step up and be a man. I'm tired of paying these bills by myself. I want him to see how it feels. I want him to know how it feels. I don't want to pay any bills. I don't want to pay anything. It wasn't until then, and I think that was in a March or April session that we had, that we agreed that starting in May, he would be totally and completely responsible for paying all of the bills. I didn't have to pay anything but the loan we had together and my car payment. I still did for our son though. He still didn't do for our son during this time. So I paid the loan that we had together, my car payment, and everything financially for our child. So May 2020 is when he began paying the bills. He told me that he just needed me to fight for us and to hold on. Y'all, I did the best I could. It was May 2020 that his grandfather on his mom's side passed away. Beef between his family and I were at an all-time high. This was after the wedding, of course. However, y'all know I'm big on family, so I convinced him to go to the funeral even though he didn't want to. I convinced him that he needed to go to Indianapolis. I even offered to go with him. I didn't want to, but I did. I felt strongly about him seeing his grandfather off for the last time, so he obliged. Remember, again, I'm big on family. I bought the Airbnb and everything. I felt that since I wasn't comfortable staying in his family's homes or anything having to do with his family, since I wasn't comfortable with that any longer, that I would pay for our lodging. This is also showing me that I'm still trying. You know what I'm saying? I'm actually putting in work. I'm still trying. You know what I'm saying? You asked me to fight, so ding, 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 I'm in this bitch. Let's go another round, you know? So it's Mother's Day weekend that this funeral and everything is going on, that we're in Indianapolis, mind you. I still had a good relationship with his grandmother, and I still talked to her around this time. So he said that we were going to do a Mother's Day dinner with her. Funeral has come and gone. Oh, and it's important to mention that he kept making excuses to run around Indianapolis visiting family, okay? Mother's Day comes and this nigga leaves to spend time with his sister, stepmother, and aunt, I believe. Him and my child are gone literally all day. No calls, no text messages, don't check on me, nothing, okay? Nothing. Until he's ready to come back to the Airbnb is when I hear from him. So I done got myself together and stuff because I'm thinking we're going to dinner, because he told me that we were going to do dinner with his grandmother. He calls me and asks me what I want from Culver's, a fast food joint, y'all. These motherfuckers, him and our son, I'm sorry to call him a motherfucker, but these motherfuckers fall into the Airbnb with Culver's for me and seafood boils for them. Yo, I just had a flashback of feelings that I felt, seeing them come through the door with Culver's for me and seafood boils for them. Like, that shit, that was so devastating, yo. Like, crazy. And they ate it in front of my face. This is on Mother's Day. On Mother's Day. If that's not a fuck you, then literally I don't know what is. I asked him what happened to dinner with his grandmother, and I got some excuse. I was hungry, so I ate my provided Culver's, but I did cry so hard that night. I was visibly upset. You treated me like shit on Mother's Day when I'm in your hometown because I convinced you to attend your grandfather's funeral. Totally wish I didn't. But honestly, I'm glad that I did. Because he showed me then how much he really, truly did not care about me. Can you imagine? Didn't even tell me or give me the option to pay for my own seafood boil. What would make somebody think that that was okay, especially on Mother's Day, and you spent absolutely no time with me? This was after 8 p.m. or so when they fell up in the Airbnb, y'all. 8 p.m. They were gone all day long. So we leave the next day. We get home and I am over it. Fuck trying. You got me all the way fucked up. One morning, my ancestors would not let me sleep. This was in July, I believe. July. And I'm used to waking up early at this point anyway. So I'm up and Spirit said, bitch, you need to go through his phone. It's some shit you really need to see in that motherfucker. And it's honestly about protecting yourself, your body, your coochie, your mind, your heart, your peace, all that. Okay, all that. So what the fuck do I do? Exactly what Spirit the fuck told me. That's what I did. And this is what I find. I was so taken aback, y'all. I knew that he'd lie and cover his tracks, delete shit or close browser windows if I woke him up and asked him about what I was seeing. So I took my phone out, and as you can see, I started recording me going through his phone and my findings. Mind you, I never go through internet browsers, only social media, text messages, and calls. Something said, nah, no, you need to dive deeper. You need to dive deeper. These are confirmation burps, y'all. Like, you need to dive deeper. You need to go to his internet browsers. Mind you, I don't use Chrome, so I primarily use Internet Explorer. But I was absolutely spirit-led when I opened up Chrome and saw the unthinkable. This nigga was not only looking for and talking to escorts, prostitutes, hoes, but he was looking for trans escorts and shit, as you could have probably seen in these receipts. That's when I realized that the shit that came up in high school could have been true. And that's honestly another story time too. That girl, y'all, that's another story time. This shit hit me like literally like a Mack truck. I realized that I don't think that I have the equipment that he desires sexually. It always made me wonder when he would ask me to do anal too, like knowing that I wasn't into that. And I would never do that shit. I was never in, that shit hurt. I was never into that shit. Sorry, that's giving you a glimpse of my sex life. I'm vanilla when it comes to the butt play. I don't do that, sorry. Whew. But he would beg me to do anal. But not only was he looking for escorts and stuff at home in Southern Maryland, but this nigga was looking for them and talking to them while we were in Indiana. So now I'm like, what if all that time that he was supposedly claiming to be visiting family, what if he was actually with these escorts? Do you know how betrayed I felt in that moment? Do you know how confused I was? Do you know how many pieces my heart broke into? Completely shattered. Now, I'm not outing him. I'm not saying that he's gay. And according to the LGBTQIA+ community rules and guidelines, it states that a man isn't necessarily gay if he likes trans and feminine presenting males that identify as females. Plus, I can't prove that he actually laid down with any of them. That's just the facts. I can't prove that he actually took it there and that he was fucking on them. I cannot prove that. But there's so many things that pointed to and alluded to that was what was going on. Whew. I had dreams and visions as well that he was before I even found the shit. So yeah, I don't know. And honestly, y'all, my dreams and visions are never bullshit. They always come to pass. So no, I'm not outing him. Just showing and telling y'all my experience and why I felt that I could no longer stay in the relationship. But honestly, can we talk real quick about societal norms? How fair is it that a man can do this to a woman and we're supposed to keep his secret? Why do we have to keep down low secrets when we're the ones that were betrayed? I never really understood that. Why? Like, why? I just don't understand that. Why are we responsible for that? That's why I feel like they think that they can get away with that shit now. And when somebody comes up with something that they can't cure, is it then okay for everybody to tell their story or to know the story? Because it seems like that's the only time that it's acceptable, when you get sick or something serious like that happens, that it's okay to say, okay, well, he was down low and I didn't know. It's not right. How about just living in your truth? How about giving the woman the option to figure this shit out with you, whether she chooses to stay or not? Playing with her health is not okay, regardless of who or what you're fucking on. That's just my stance. And some of y'all cisgender or natural born women, since we now have an issue with scientific terms, some of y'all motherfuckers is nasty bitches yourself and carry a thing or two. So this clearly is not just about one community. I'm talking about all y'all motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? This is not just about, LGBTQ. No, this is about everybody's. Because some of y'all heterosexual bitches is nasty. Also, I've always presented myself as an ally to the LGBTQIA community. So clock that, okay? Since middle school, I've known about close friends' sexualities and have kept their secrets still to this day. Loved on them like I would love anyone else and supported them. Not to mention my godfather, whom I loved and absolutely adored with every ounce of my mind, heart, body, and soul, y'all. I love that man. He was a gay man. My parents clearly raised me to love everybody. They made a gay man my godfather. You know what I'm saying? If they had an issue, you know what I mean? So I grew up never knowing that there was a societal issue with homosexuality. I wasn't raised that way. Anyway, with me knowing that it took him 11 years to admit that he slept with a female that I caught him with, I'd be in my grave before he admitted any truth about the she-male shit. Y'all, I call it she-male, and y'all can see that's exactly what it says on them tabs. That's what it says it is. So I'm just calling it what it said on the websites that he was on. You can look at it from the receipts, okay? I'm not trying to be funny or derogatory when I say that. So it was around August 2020 that I began fully detaching and doing me mentally at that moment. No, I wasn't looking for his replacement or looking for my next relationship. I was hurting. I was shattered. I couldn't fathom another relationship so soon. I was just focused on me, my healing, and my well-being. We're living together at this time still, but I asked him to move out of my room, and he basically moved into our son's room at this time. So I'm creating more distance. My son has a busy life, and I was beginning to cultivate my own life around my son's. So when he had practice up the street, I'd stay for a bit, leave to go cook dinner, and then come back to get him. I was late some of the time picking him up because of that. Despite all that I was going through, I was still determined to be a good homemaker. That's why I'm like, I know that I'm destined to be a homemaker. I also began recording stuff like vlogs, my podcast. I began mentoring and teaching classes around this time. I was doing it all around my son's schedule. I would do yoga and work out off to the side during his training sessions. That was one, so that he knew that I was in this thing with him regarding our fitness goals, because he was overweight and stuff. And two, I was healing emotionally and spiritually through working out unbeknownst to me, you know what I'm saying, as I'm doing it. I begged my ex to help me out with our son, and all I got was excuses and that he has things to do. He has this and that to do. He's got to work. Mind you, after work, he was doing side projects that he makes his own schedule and time to do. So there was really no excuse, because he made his own schedule, so he could have done it, but he just didn't want to. I was the one who gifted him his business for our first anniversary. I truly believed in him, and I wanted to encourage and motivate him. So it wasn't a matter, again, of him not being able to. It was just a matter of him not wanting to, never wanting to. Remember how I said that my dad was present, but not present in the household? So was my husband. And I think that's why I was willing to accept it. I grew up with my dad being present, but not present. Granted, he wasn't doing the shit that my ex was doing, but it's still the same nonetheless. My ex showed up for photo opportunities and anything that he felt there would be eyes or a crowd around so that he could look good. He showed up for games and everything like he was a proud parent and a present dad. Truth be told, I never really enforced a bedtime for my child because I never knew what time my ex was going to come home. My child wanted to see his dad before he goes to bed. I remember my dad being home for dinner, like I told y'all. And I remember that, my dad would be home when I went to bed, so I could understand and relate to my son feeling like he needed these things. However, we played it to the public like we were a happy and thriving family. So now you're seeing where the things that I said I learned and picked up growing up with my parents are affecting me here. They're playing out, and I'm playing into those toxic traits that I picked up. Holding shit in, compartmentalizing, not truly working through emotions. Passing myself and my emotional well-being and my mental health to the side while operating in my desire to be loved so badly by the one I love so deeply. I gave everything. I gave all of me. I was never enough for him. I could never do enough for him. And then I find out that I really don't have enough to really satisfy his sexual desires. My heart, my mind, my emotions, my soul at points were all battered and bruised. Enough was enough, y'all. People thought that I was mean and controlling, but in reality, I was actually trying to fight to keep my mental intact. I'm fighting to stay sane, y'all. This nigga gaslit me so bad our entire relationship, manipulated, lied, cheated. And do you know how fucked up it is to be psychic? He knows that I'm psychic. I know what I know. And then him playing in my face, trying to make his story stick and trying to convince me and everybody else around him that his story is the truth. That's absolute torture. You have no idea the anguish of trying to make sure that I stayed absolutely sane with someone like this. So yeah, I guess it can come off as aggressive, mean, and controlling. Even with solid proof, this man will lie. The shit show doesn't stop though. Current day, he's withholding monies owed to me, which he claims to have. He told that to my mom. He told my mom that he's withholding money and that he does have my money. And he admitted to withholding the money for a loan that we have together that would have been satisfied in this December, and holding on to child support that we agreed upon once he moved out in 2022. The last time that man gave me any monies agreed upon was Tuesday, May 7th. You know, if I have the exact date, you know I don't mind producing receipts. Okay. I might do that on the mini-sode for real though. It was his responsibility to buy our son a car. He stopped giving me child support and money on a loan we have together back in May. Keep that in mind. The loan is still outstanding to date, okay? So, why did he have to get a loan for $4,000 to put on our son's car when he owes me that amount and then some? Mind you, he told my mother that he has what he owes me. Why he ain't just put that on the car? Why get a loan? Then I find out after my son gets the car, I think it was like a month later, I find out that he told our son that he needed to pay him $75 a week, which is $300 a month. I can understand some money, you know, towards car insurance or whatever, but $300 a month from a 17-year-old? Mind you, again, our son just started working, okay? And he's only getting about 15 hours a week, which is about $125 a week after taxes. So how can he afford gas and whatever else he needs by giving his dad more than 50% of his earnings? He's about to ask for more hours because of this. So my son is basically having to pay on the loan that my ex took out. My son is paying for his own car. Whew. Not only that, y'all, he stopped paying child support. So he's not only taking money from our child, but he's not providing for or doing for the child. Mind you, my mom paid 2/3 of the car in cash. My mother paid 2/3 of that car in cash. He had my mom believing that he was going to take care of the car financially and the maintenance. My mom paid for my son's first oil change. I was the one who made the appointment for it. Not only that, my father and son changed the brakes on my son's car together. But I thought his father was supposed to be taking care of the maintenance and paying for the maintenance of the car. He never told my mother that he told our son that he needed to give him money weekly for the car. She probably would have never agreed to pay for the car had she known it. And I actually confirmed that with her. She said she would have never done that. She felt so deceived and felt like she did wrong by her grandson after finding out the secret agreement between father and son. How he lied, manipulated, and did throughout how he lied, manipulated, and did that throughout the process was just not right. That child is in high school and he just started working. He's getting 15 to 18 hours a week. Earlier, I said I was making $125 a week in unemployment. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not enough to sustain. So he's asking for that child's whole paycheck, essentially, when you think about it. Because taxes eat up a bunch of the check. My ex didn't have to pay for his first car. His grandmother paid for it. The same grandmother that my ex, told our son to call while she's well into her 80s and ask her, can she give him a car or money towards one? How incredibly insane and selfish is that? That's diabolical as shit. So why would you do that to your son? Why would you do something that wasn't done to you, to him? I was mortified to find out that my son agreed to pay him and that my son agreed to call his 80-something-year-old great-grandmother for money and to ask her for a car. That's not right, which is why He wanted my child to keep it a secret. You would think that off of the strength of everything I did for him and how he knows he did me wrong throughout the years, that he at least do right by what we agreed upon in the loan and child support. Child support at the fucking least. He's a deadbeat and trying to mask that shit hard as fuck these days. He pretends to be active in our son's life, but never truly spends time with him. I can't even use 2 full hands to count how often my son goes over his dad's house to stay in the year that he's been living with his girlfriend. Matter of fact, since I made him move out, I can count on less than 2 hands. Even when he was living, the ex was living with his stepfather, he wouldn't come get our child. He barely came inside to speak to our child when he would drop off my weed or pick his mail up. Yup, he was my weed man. He was my weed man. He was a weed man for people that he worked on bikes for, and some people in this club. I used to smoke really bad to help myself with depression and anxiety. We used to smoke together nightly when we lived together, and I'm owning my shit. I'm not gonna let anybody else be able to tell my story better than I can. I'm owning my shit. I even sent him a text on October 23rd, 2023, which I'll insert here, where I went the fuck off on him. At that time, I was in Tampa and our son was fucking up in school. I asked him to stay in my rental townhome because the fire had already occurred at this point with our son while I was on, my work trip. So during this trip, our son was not doing right in school and I had checked his grades. This was his junior year. He had been fucking up in school since freshman year. So this was nothing new to us, and we had been and when I say we, it's me and my parents, had been trying to combat the situation. This was after me seeing his grades and severely failing. My ex wanted to continue to enable him, but I had enough. You can read the text here. I'll read it for you, I said, because he said something about my tone being uncalled for. I said, my tone is not uncalled for because, truth be told, if you actually step the fuck up and were present as a goddamn dad to help me, I probably wouldn't be where I am with it. Let's be real. Call a thing a fucking thing. I'm beyond stretched thin, and the only time you know how to show up is during fucking football games and when I ask you to stay with him. Y'all don't even acknowledge each other when you come by to pick up your fucking mail. So please don't ever speak on my tone when and where my child is concerned, because I'm the only present fucking parent and have been all his life. You've just been an older fucking friend to him. Furthermore, did you die when you had your phone taken away growing up? No. So guess what? He will be all right. I'm tired of pussyfooting around shit when we both know. I'm done. Okay? Done. And this is the way I find myself speaking to someone who continuously tries to hurt and manipulate me. Now he lies and says he's keeping up with our son and schooling and stuff these days. Just last year, he didn't mind being locked out of his parent view account. Mind you, he's been locked out of his parent view account since our son's sophomore year. And he never took time to call the school counselor and say, hey, I'm locked out, which I told him, hey, I'm locked out, can you reset my stuff? Never did that. Now it's our child's senior year and he wants to call and have it unlocked so that he can act in front of his girlfriend like he's on top of things. The dummy even sent my mom a screenshot of what he thought was my son's report card grades, when in reality, it was the interim grades. He doesn't even know how to properly find where the accurate grades were, which tells you he hasn't been active and he hasn't been doing this shit long. The few times my son has gone to stay at his dad is basically working the entire time and does not spend time with him. He takes him to dinner sometimes and to a couple of activities, but that was due to my ex's current girlfriend. He's got to make it look like he's a father to her when he's never been that. He's putting on a show for his girlfriend. And honestly, I am so grateful for his girlfriend. I have no qualms or anything about her. I'm super grateful for her because she is legitimately the only reason why he's doing things for our son now. She's the only reason why he's showing up in any type of capacity for our son. But he waited until I did all of the hard work to do so. Senior year is literally the easiest year of your high school career, especially when you only have 4 classes like our son does. So I really truly thank and appreciate his girlfriend for him at least pretending to be a dad now. I am so grateful for her. You know, they say iron sharpens iron. I've had my sword out and I've been fighting for my life all of my life, as you can tell. And that's why my abilities are so strong. I've had to stay tapped into my spiritual conscious this entire time to fight through the things that I've endured. I've literally had to stand on my truth knowing while physically seeing the lies in front of me. I've had to literally rely on God and my ancestors to keep my mental intact. And they did. They say, and did. Especially when it appeared to others that I was crashing out. Nobody knew the suffering that I was enduring behind closed doors. Nobody knew the truth or the full story until now. So I'm a survivor. I'm healed. I'm healing. I'm not damaged. I don't harbor hate or malice. I'm just extremely heartbroken. I told him this, which is why he's acting out, withholding child support now, etc. I told him that I did not want to be his friend and that I needed some time. He pushed the issue and tried arguing, and I told him that I didn't care anymore about him and that I didn't care any more about him than I do somebody off the streets. Now, most of y'all know that I feed homeless people and I show compassion to those people. So it's not like I said he was dead to me, and he knows this too. But I can prove those. I can produce those receipts, which I might as well in the mini-sode. I have nothing to hide, you know. But that hurt his feelings, and I understand him being upset, not having access to me in any capacity after spending our entire lives draining and killing me. I would be upset if I couldn't drain and kill somebody too. I would be upset. As you can see from this receipt, I have even asked him for his address so that I could properly have him served, and he wouldn't provide it. He ignored me. Go home, girl. Don't let him lie to you and tell you that I'm prolonging a divorce or anything in regards to him. I'm not. Plus, he knows my address and stuff. He could have served me. And he also said back in April that he had drawn up papers, and so I asked him for them so that I could go over them. He never provided those to me. And again, I'd be happy to produce those receipts as well, because in the midst of him being those was in the midst of him being a deadbeat again, and me asking him to help me with our son's prom for his junior year. I'm actually going to release those receipts in the mini-sode. Sorry. But yeah, and matter of fact, that's the same message that I said that I didn't want to be friends with him and that he is just like somebody off the streets to me. That's the same message. So I'm definitely going to show you guys in the mini-sode after this, that's going to come after this. Oh, we're going to do receipts that's what we're going to do. We're going to do these receipts in the mini-sode. Okay? Yes. I'm not who I was while I was with him. I've had a couple rebirths and major ascensions since. And you see the smile on my face because I'm very, very proud of myself. I'm now standing in my power. Again, I'm very proud of myself. The power that God gave to me. Yes, Lord. I'm now standing and operating in my full divine femininity. And I fucking love it here, y'all. This episode has been long enough, so I think we're going to go ahead and stop here, leave it here, and we're going to go ahead, like I said, and review those receipts in the mini-sode that is coming to follow this episode. All right, y'all. I will see you guys later. No, you know what? Hopefully you guys can see, understand, and respect my decision to walk away from my marriage. I do want to say that first before I say